Welcome into our third and final stage for 2021. It's the APAC South League, and we're keen to get underway. But before we do, gentlemen, you have actually colour coordinated. I haven't seen you since you guys went and changed. Xenox, I'll go to you first, mate. How have you felt in the break? I know you've had a nice couple of months off.
Yeah, went on holidays. I got to go all around my house, even into the backyard, a little bit into the front yard as well, Manic. For those unaware, we're still in lockdown here in Melbourne, Australia. But look, it was a nice breath of fresh air. Got to have a bit of a break, but I'm pumped and excited to be back.
Yeah, Guz, I've to be fair, I think I've heard your voice enough over the past couple of weeks. I don't need to ask how you are. The whole scene knows how you are. You tweet every day, so that's okay. Xenox is a little bit more MIA on that front. But one thing I know that you were watching with keen intent was that major. We had a pretty incredible performance from the entirety of APAC. It kind of feels like maybe there is a sleeping giant that has been risen.
Yeah. Just cut in. You probably didn't even watch the majors, Xenox, so I don't know what you're going to be talking about. Obviously, it was an incredible tournament for APAC. They came out of the gates really strong. DWG Kia over in APAC North performing quite well. In terms of more local, fortunately, of course, the Knights didn't get to attend due to COVID restrictions, so they just weren't at the event at all. Invictus Gaming, though, they went. They got a couple of wins on the board. They went 2-0-1-3. That was their record. That put them in third for Group D. Not enough to make it out, unfortunately, into the bracket. So a little bit disappointing for us down here in APAC South, but no doubt all these teams looking to improve in anticipation for the next major.
Xenox?
Yeah, look, it probably went about as expected. Obviously, Dam 1K was a shining light, and there were some good moments. A lot of the times when we have these sort of events, whether it's SI or whether it's a major, APAC just tends to not quite live up to any expectations, but I think this time they did justice, and that was, of course, as Guz mentioned, without Knights even going, and I know there was a lot of hyperbole and topic around whether the Knights had been there, what they could have achieved. I think they would have done good things. I don't know if they would have done better than, say, Dam 1 or not. It's hard to say, so I don't even think we should spend time speculating on it, and hopefully for SI we can see Knights go over there and do some good things, and then along with the major, which I looked at some of the statistics, and I know this was a bit of a talking point. Guz, we had a little bit of a chat about it off air about teams that can say make SI. There's not much that say Elevate or Knights really need to do for this stage.
Yeah, I mean, you say that. They haven't quite locked in their positions at the moment. That said, if either Elevate or Knights make it through even just to the major, so if they finish first in the regular season or make it through the APAC playoffs at the end of Stage 3, the Knights will 99.99% guarantee their position, and Elevate will 100% lock themselves in. Those are just the stats that have been done in terms of how they can line up internationally. Of course, the top 20 teams from all 4 of the major regions will go towards the 6th Invitational. 16 of which are from the points for open qualifiers. So Elevated Knights in a fantastic position. They really just need to continue their form that they've already established.
Well, I guess before we get there, we're going to kickstart the league, don't we? The best way to do that is to have a look at the schedule, jump into it. And Xenox, maybe we'll come back to you because we know you like to take the entire graphic. But first up, that matchup, Knights and Wildcard, sure to be a banging one to kickstart the Stage 3 that we have.
Oh, I thought you were throwing a Guz. I completely blanked.
I 100% said Xenox, and I 100% said Guz when we were talking about the major, and you still butted in. So I don't know what's going on anymore.
Maybe we've just flip-flopped our names for tonight. I'm not sure. The reason why I thought you were throwing it to Guz is because usually I go on forever on these things, and I thought you
That's
wanted to
what he
give him
said, but you don't listen.
This guy doesn't listen.
That's why I tuned out for a split second. Either way, big matchup first, of course, Knights and Wildcard. For those who maybe missed Stage 2 and potentially even missed Stage 1, Wildcard still trying to recapture some of their 2020 form. They've got to do it this stage, though, guys. I think this is now enough excuses. Enough time has gone by. They've had enough time to gel as a roster. We need to see big things. I don't expect them to do it against Knights tonight, but looking for them to have a better stage. And then Order versus Direwolves. That is probably the most even matchup of the night, guys. I'll throw it to you for this one so you can talk.
Yeah, Order and Direwolves finished second last and last respectively in Stage 2, so anticipating that to be a close matchup. Moving on from that, of course, Elevate and the Chiefs. That is shaping up to be a really great matchup. Elevate looking to continue their form as the best here in APAC South, and the Chiefs looking to really take that big next step, and then a big match as well to round out the night. Q Confirm taking on Invictus, a bit of a mid-table clash there. Both sitting in that mid-table, as I said, 4th and 5th respectively in terms of overall points accrued so far. So expecting that to be a close matchup. And I mean, I know we say it 1,000 times. We're going to say it 1,000 times. Every single match in APAC South, incredibly difficult to predict. I believe it was 5 points separating first place from last at the end of stage 2. So good luck predicting it.
Yeah, well, Guz, me and you have gone for the order prediction here over what was formerly 7th Heaven. I guess that's probably a talking point there, but we'll talk about that when we actually get to those teams. Do you want to try and defend yourself there, Guz, on the order pick, or are you thinking that maybe it's a misstep from Dev Raven and Xenox?
Well, I am still waiting on Order to potentially send me a jersey, so that did, I guess, influence my decision a little bit. But on a more serious note, I was compelled to pick them tonight based on some of the content they produced and released a couple of days ago. They are adamant, Order that is, that they beat themselves over in Stage 2 and even further back in towards Stage 1. They believe they are still one of the strongest teams in the region. Sure, they are equal last in points accrued so far, but if they can, I guess, get over those demons, I don't see any reason why they can't win tonight.
Xenox, you've gone with the Elevate pick, but like, let's be honest, I can't believe we've got 4 boys in blue here.
Yeah, and I will be honest as well for those watching, I did have the boys in blue originally. I saw 5 blue logos and I thought, there's just no way. Elevate, really? To be 5-0'd in that way, so I thought I'll be the one. I'll go for Elevate. They did beat Chiefs last time as well. Little fun fact with Xenox, actually, Order and Direwolves did play on Playday 1 of APAC South Stage 2, and so they will do so once again. It was, of course, then 7th Heaven, that won 7-3. That is, of course, the match of the night for me, boys. I don't know if it is or not on your agenda, but I look at that and I look at 2 teams that were 7 and 8 that have got expectations to make the top 4 at the end of Stage 3. Both have got the rosters to do it. It's just a matter of whether it'll happen, Rob.
Guz, do you think it will? I think that's one of the overarching questions for both of those teams. Xenox has kind of prefaced that perfectly.
It's a big page of the stage. Very difficult to make those predictions. I think the big storyline heading out, or coming into that match rather, is the fact that Ethan is rejoining the Chiefs. That is a huge storyline. I know we'll dive into it later, but there is no doubt that's going to have a big impact on their performance.
Very large. And speaking of large, let's go and have a look at our first matchup of the day, because there's none other than Knight and Wildcard. I don't know whether either of these rosters have really... I don't think they've had any changes whatsoever heading into this one, Xenox, apart from the break. They've kind of been able to go away and take a deep breath. I guess Silix kind of departing from Wildcard, that's probably a talking point, I guess. Yeah,
to a degree, but I don't think it would make too much of a change on the roster as a whole. So I would agree that, when you look at the core 5, when you look at, Rousty still there as the head coach, Flux as well, I wouldn't really look too much into the Silix move. We'll probably talk about Knights first, though, because they deserve that. The team that, of course, won in Stage 2. Didn't quite get to go to the major, obviously, for travel exemption reasons. They couldn't quite get the exemption. So they are, though, coming in as the hot property for Stage 3 here for APAC South. They should be regarded as the best team, despite the fact that they couldn't go to the Mexico Major. And so all eyes are on this team to perform once again. And that's why you've got to be able to go and beat teams like Wildcard straight out of the gate. I think next week they play IG. That should be an interesting one. But basically, this is a team that hasn't changed. That should have only gotten really better during the break, hopefully. The only downside is they didn't get to go to the major and get that invaluable experience.
Guys, how much is that into Stage 3? Do you think that could linger over them in the mental state?
I think it could prove to be a little bit costly. That said, the only other team here in APAC South that did actually go over to the major and gain that international experience was Invictus Gaming. So you could make the argument that there's 7 or 6 other teams in this league that are in a similar position of having little to no international exposure, at least in a LAN environment. So I don't think that's too much of an excuse. I don't think that's going to burden them too much. The point I do want to bring up to, again, is 6 Invitational. Of course, every stage links up and creates accumulates points for these teams to make it into the top 16. If the Knights finish top 4 in APAC South, they will at worst finish in the top 8 for APAC as a whole. That gives them an 85% chance to make 6 Invitational 2022. That ramps up massively. Even if they get 7th and above, it starts to get in basically confirmed territory. But that really is their goal. Make the playoffs, make that run, and confirm themselves for SI.
Now, as we look to the other side of the ring, if you will, we do have Wildcard, a team that really has just had one of the most awkward years I think I've seen from a team in Siege for a long time. Xenox, maybe we'll go to you first here. Were they, I don't want to say were they disappointing in Stage 2, but were they? Was that something that we kind of looked to as the opposite of a shining light, rather just kind of sitting away in the corner?
Well, look, it's very difficult because, as we know, for those who were not aware, in Stage 1, they, of course, had to play with Silex in the roster. They only won the 2 games out of 7. They only got the 6 points. They had the worst round differential. Did they improve then in Stage 2? Well, yeah, they did. They got 4 extra points. They actually had a +3 round differential, the only team in the bottom 4 to have a positive round differential. They went 3 and 4 technically. So I think that they set the building blocks, they set the foundations. Yeah, they didn't achieve top 4, but for all intents and purposes, they had a pretty even season, close to, say, Chiefs. They were only 1 point behind Invictus, and really all the way up until the final 2 play days, they were still within a chance to make top 4. So did they improve? Yes. Do they have to go 1 step further in Stage 3? Yeah, they do. Molosca's been amazing. They need probably some of the older heads to stand up in this stage if they are to make top 4, and that is the goal.
Yep. Expectations coming into this one, guys. Are we expecting big things from Wildcard Stage 3?
APAC South as a league is incredibly punishing. We saw it last stage and even in Stage 1. If you dropped a single map here or there, that could determine where you place, whether it be in the top 4, the bottom 4, first, even last. I mean, we saw Invictus last stage make that miracle run from last into the playoffs and end up going to the major, which was insane. So Wildcard need to step it up. It is critical for them. We said it was critical in Stage 2 for them to start showing results, but it's even more imperative here. They need a massive Stage 3, otherwise relegation starts to get really, really scary for them. And based on their form, they're not at full strength. And if they get caught off guard in relegations, things could start to look a little bit scarce for them. It could look a little bit bad.
Yeah, it just really has not been the greatest year for them. So this is their opportunity, I guess, to kind of tidy things up and put a bow on it. Maybe make it out of the... I don't even know what the relegations are looking like right now, so I guess we'll find out as this stage goes on. But Xenox, it is time for the veto. This is, you know, I would say one of the more interesting parts of our segment, because there's something else other than us on the screen, and we are going to Villa. And if Blue Panda was on here, I am sure he'd be giving it to you about it. I
love Villa now. That's all in the past. We're into Stage 3. Villa's in. Speaking of in as well, Bank is in, but it has been bound out by Knight. So, look, it's hard to really say, right? It's the first play day of a new stage. It's always difficult to sort of ascertain which map is going to favor any of the teams. I think going to Villa is going to be interesting because we don't typically see it too often, at least in the Oceanic region, whether it be OCN or even in this case APAC South. So I think this should be pretty even split. I give obviously Knights the favor here going into Villa just because it's Knights, and they'll be looking to come out and back up their Stage 2, get out with a win. So really all pressure is on Knights here. Wildcard get a free punch. There's no expectations on them to win, and I think Guz would share a similar sentiment. Yeah,
of course, just touching on the map pool, for those who don't know, Clubhouse, slight rework. We saw Bank get a pretty significant rework alongside Coastline as well. Unfortunately, we won't see either of those or any of those 3 played thus far, but Villa does offer an opportunity for a pretty tight matchup. I'm looking back at some of the results for both of these teams, and neither look very positive at all, to be honest. The Knights, they lost to Order. They also lost to the Chiefs. You look across to Wildcard, they lost to Order, Invictus, Order again. So there's a bit of red in the column for both of these teams. I can't help but feel that they're feeling confident to actually head to this map in the first place. Maybe a bit of practice and a bit of prep work has gone in during the break, and I'm sure they'll be firing at full cylinders.
Overarching win conditions here, gentlemen. Xenox, I'll come to you first. What a Wildcard need to do? Get out of this gate, kind of, you know, get the monkey off their back and kickstart their Stage 3 campaign.
Yeah, I'm never qualified, of course, to say what a team should or shouldn't do. But I will say, I think if Wildcard are to win, they probably need to play quite random. They probably need to not play to the structure that Knights would typically like to play. We know Knights are generally pretty good when it gets to that sort of structured kind of siege. So if Wildcard can just play aggressive, be annoying, get in the face of Knights, get a couple of early rounds on the board as well, put the pressure on Knights immediately. If Knights go out to like a 3-0 lead, I think then they just cruise home. But if Wildcard can come out swinging early, get the first couple of rounds, put the pressure right on Knights and say, because, you know, I think you touched on it, Manning. Yeah, one result changes everything when it comes down. It's only 7 play days. You need to win this game if you are Knights. If you want to get first place, you got to win this game. So all pressure on them.
Guz, quick final predictions. Who are we going with?
You got to go Knights. There's a reason they were the best in Stage 2. I didn't see any reason that should slow down. Even if Wildcard have undergone significant improvement, I don't think it's going to quite be enough.
Oof, that's quite large. I guess Knights are coming into this the favoured. They were, after all, the Stage 2 champions for APAC South. But that is going to do it for us here on the desk. We're going to give it to your wonderful casters, Dev and Raven. Enjoy.
Thanks very much, Manic. Raven, we are back. It is stage 3, and I'm ready to get cracking. Knights and Wildcard, teams that we haven't seen for a hot minute, and I'm ready to see what they've got to show here in stage 3.
Yeah, look, I'm super excited. It's always really cool to see how a stage begins because you have certain predisposed ideas about how teams might perform based on their previous form, but there's been a pretty significant break, and especially for teams that didn't participate in the major, they've had a while to work at things. So to the point of the desk, the fact that this has gone to Villa, I think is a great sign that these teams have been working pretty hard throughout this break.
Absolutely no doubt about it. Knights, #1 from APAC South, stage 2, but couldn't go to the major. Wildcard still in that rut, hoping that stage 3 is their last chance to break free. Villa is our battleground, and we've had a couple of other changes that have come through into the live build now with Crystal Guard Raven. We might see some Thunderbird played. We might see a couple of the operators that have seen buffs get some play as well. So this operator veto, to me, I'm curious to see whether anything's going to change.
Yeah, look, the Thunderbird point is a good one. Really haven't thought that much about it myself in terms of whether we will see it much. I mean, my gut feeling is maybe not a whole lot, maybe going to be filling that void of just a bit of a niche pick. Sometimes those Kona stations might be helpful. Holds a certain aspect of a hold. So I don't think it'll really come through in operator bans, but yeah, look, it could definitely have an impact in certain sites. And that's the other exciting thing about starting a new stage. Usually means new season and all kinds of changes that allow teams to kind of have a little bit more creative freedom at the beginning.
There you have the ban phase. Wildcard wanted to get rid of that clash. We've seen several players from Knights really do some damage on that. The one operator that has slipped through, though, is Valkyrie, Wildcard's most banned operator by far. And particularly on this map, we see both teams have banned Valkyrie in the past, so I expect Hayward will make good use of those cameras. Ooh, but on the other side, maybe we're going to see the 6 pick onto the IQ. Oh, okay, IQ picked to counter the Valk. Is that Nook going to come through, I wonder, for Vincere?
Yeah, he looked pretty indecisive. He's flicking between the Nook and the Finker, and there it is. He's going to 6 actually onto the Finker, Dev. Hasn't locked it in. Still a little bit of time here, but that Valkyrie is going to remain. And look, it is a great point. Valkyrie has certainly risen to be a frustrating operator to deal with. Some of those cameras in positions where not necessarily obvious, you have to dedicate time to actually look for them. If you don't bring the IQ in particular, if you don't look for them, obviously you're not going to get spotted, and they can really feed just such strong intel to the rest of the defense to really, influence the way a round can play out.
In stage 1, these teams went head-to-head on Oregon. 8-7 was the result in favor of the Knights. A very tight game and one of Wildcard's precious points that they managed to pick up from that match as well. And in stage 1, believe it or not, Wildcard actually took down Knights on this very map, Villa, 7-4. And I think that was one of the best showings we've seen from them. And of course, you can't even say that Knights didn't have anything to fight for. They were fighting for that #1 spot in the league. So we know that Wildcard has what it takes here. And I'm loving the Finker pick right out of the gate. We already touched on it briefly. A little bit of a buff coming through for her, seeing those frag grenades. I'm curious to see whether this Operation Chimera Storm that we have from Wildcard will bear any fruit.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. And look, I do love the Finker pick as well. I'm really keen to see how it changes the tides here. Obviously, like you said, the frag grenades is probably a massive impact there, and that's what they've gone for. So I do hope it does have some kind of impact, but yeah, we'll wait and see how it progresses.
Got the call from producer. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go for a rehearsed. I believe we've had some kind of issue with the HUD bug that's come through. That's all right. What you're seeing right now won't bear fruit. This game is going to be rehearsed. So there you go. Hello, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, not the greatest start, but hey, we did get a little bit of a taste, I think, of the Crystal Guard feel and the Stage 3 feel that we're going to get. That was quite an unusual operator set. Now, I do want to touch on Finker a little bit more.
Yep.
She's got 2 nades, and she's got the Gon 6. She's like basically very similar kit in terms of what you've got on Yana. The main difference is just Gemini's versus that Finker boost. Well, why would you pick one over the other?
Could be a player comfort thing. At this stage, I can't really feel like I can say why, but it could be a player comfort thing, whether it's to do with the weaponry or just favoring using that Finker boost for maybe a different thing. Like, I don't know. I really want to see that round play out because I'm curious to see exactly what Wildcard are using it for. At first read, I can't really say why.
Hard to speculate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, Finker, I've played a little bit of Finker recently. And it's nice having the 3 explosives. Oh, yeah. You know me, right? I like to get a little bit out there, do some weird things. Yeah, and obviously we've seen a lot of Finker in the past from various teams, mostly from APAC, a little bit from LATAM as well, even when she didn't have the nades. Particularly, I'm thinking, Xavier, Q-Confirm. Even some of the Japanese teams have enjoyed it as well. And I mean, it's a great primary weapon, both the spear, which we saw Vinny running, but also the that LMG, the 6P41, I believe it's called. Really good gun, especially when you've got that Finker boost, faster aim down sights time, less recoil. You just have to coordinate that with your teammates so no one's shooting at the floor. But hey, I'm curious to see whether the added explosives will make her a little bit more viable. But taking a little bit of a step back, Lion and Finker together, we've got a lot of explosives. Zafia, Sledge, Lion, Finker, and Hibana was the line out. I'm trying to think, usually when you bring operators like Lion and Finker, you're substituting something out. What are they really missing there? It actually seems like a pretty well-rounded team composition.
Yeah, I wouldn't really say they are missing anything. I mean, they seem to have all that's needed to make an attack work on most sites, let alone particularly for this site. They've got the hard breacher. They can do vertical play with the sledge. Even from below on this site, there are little angles that you can get with that sledge on Villa in certain places in the map. But at the end of the day, yeah, this lineup does feel like it can get a lot done. I do really like the idea of the Lion as well. I think we've started to see a lot more Lion creep into attack lineups, and it can be really great to handle roam clears that can just be a little bit tricky and elusive. And that's definitely sometimes something that the Knights are so good at. They can be really tricky to deal with on that roam clear. It can just be, if anything, a massive time delay. So bringing that Lion through, I think, is a really good addition for Wildcard, a team that's prone to stalling out a little bit, and in particular on the attack.
Also got the Gon 6 plus 3 flashbangs. So, I mean, if you do a little bit of math,
Yep.
Vinny's got 3 explosives on the Finker, 1 more on the Lion, 2 on the Sledge, who, by the way, has lost his SMG-11, and 2 on the Zafia, plus plenty of flashbangs and other projectiles to waste through ADSs and magnets. Pretty mad comp, honestly. You've got basically everything you could possibly want, except the IQ to look for those Valk cams. But let's take a step back. Knights and Wildcard, look, I feel like these are 2 teams that have been kind of the opposite of the spectrum. If you go back a year ago, end of 2020, it was Wildcard who was the dominant force within Oceania. At that time, we didn't have an APAC level competition, but Knights was that team nipping at the heels of your orders and eventually your Wildcard. The first time we really saw Knights break through was actually the 2020 finals, which was held in January this year. And ever since then, Wildcard hasn't been the same. Knights has been the new best team in OS and, dare I say, APAC South as well.
Yeah, look, it's Knights really have not looked back since January in terms of their form. They've just continued to grow, and it's been fantastic to watch. And I think conversely, it's a lot of just Wildcard really, falling through all kinds of turmoil. It wasn't just that they lost their form and, oh, that's it, they're not the top team anymore. Obviously, losing Diesel way back at the start of the year was a really big impact for them. Played a very strong support role, as well as a strong kind of leadership figure within that team. So always losing that is difficult to replace, and it happened so suddenly before stage 1. So as was prefaced on the desk, that Silex came in to sub, and that was just not easy for them, and they just have not bounced back since then. Stage 2 was a touch better, and honestly, with the players that they have on their roster, it just feels like it could be imminent that at some point here, they could easily shoot back up to be a top 4 team.
Totally, and that's the enigma that is Wildcard. All we're waiting for is that click moment. You've got players like Milo, Geo, really well-renowned fraggers, even Emarin, one of the oldest kind of old guard OGs of Oceanic Rainbow 6, always been known for being such a deadly fragger. There's all the ingredients here, add to that, Vincier himself, crazy fragger in his own right. Pat, great support player, great vocal leadership role that he plays on this team as well. Plus, we've got Rousty coming on in from formerly of the Rogue guys as coach, sitting behind these guys, figuratively, of course, hailing in all the way from Finland. So, I do wonder. We're always wondering, really, when is this going to change? Come on, Wildcard have all the ingredients. They just, for some reason, can't cook up a meal.
Yeah, that is totally it. They just need that pinch of salt there. They're waiting for it. And
It's like they don't have the method. You know, when you open up a recipe and you're looking for how to cook the, whatever it is, chicken roast, whatever, and instead they just tell you your life story. Like this, the recipe just starts with, yes, so one day I was out on the East Coast and I saw a lone chicken, and that inspired. No, don't tell me your life story. We just need to get to it. Wildcard need the method to finally get some things going.
that was a banging analogy, I'll tell you what. But yes, we will see whether that is going to happen this stage, and they've got a really massive opportunity here because, as you were prefacing before as well, Knights really are considered one of, if not the best team in not just Oceanic Siege, but APAC South. So to get a big win against the Knights for Playday 1 in Stage 3, that really would be the start to that method for Wildcard to be authoring here.
Well, let's see how they go on the roam clear. An extension from the Knights. Some hard breach used to try and penetrate that stat room. A lot of barricades, a lot of utils set up, no mute jammers or any form of wall denial placed on that wall. So that does enable the Hibana to breach on through.
Yeah, it's also really pushed Knights off nice and early. You see Dino and Sage both dropping back to site super quick. They are not intending to really contend that for their lives, but Hayward still below, looming with a C4 on the Valkyrie. And he's got cameras here for info, so it looks like he's going to try and make an impact early with this vertical play on the C4.
Oh, and he may well just get it. What info's he got? Josh is on cams for him right now. Maybe we can see his POV. Just waiting at landing. Spots out a drone as well. So Josh doesn't have a lot of info deep into stat. It's mostly just at heads and tails.
Just heard a camera get shot as well. I'm pretty sure that was that black eye. So looks like Knights haven't been able to capitalize just yet, but that will always be a dangerous position here for Hayward. The Knights can certainly get a lot of that info nice and quickly, but to flip it again, Wildcard, they've made some really good progress here. They've cleared across from the bedroom side. They're starting to push towards 90. Geo ready to really take this to himself. So now there's one really last step for Wildcard. They need to start to really penetrate towards site and displace these on-site positions. Find that opening pick.
There goes the adrenal surge from Thinker as well. We can see the Wildcard players with that HP boost. Hayward's on for a flank. Someone is lurking down in Piano. It is Milo looking to clear some util from below. The E1D to lock Hayward in place, but he has the perfect flank. Is anybody watching for it? No! Geo taken down, and Hayward still runs rampant on the red stairs, rotates back down. C4 still in the pocket, catches a drone, but Pat finds the entry for Wildcard. And the E1D enables Emo to get nice and close. Vinny's going straight in. He can find the opener that they needed. The double for Vinny. The finish off with the Gon 6. Hayward with it all to do. But Vinny and Emo are caught between a rock and a hard place. Juicy can find one before he's traded. No time on the clock for Emo Rin. And Knights, just in the 1v1, can clinch the first round.
Hayward really did open that one up for the Knights, and it was a decent attack from Wildcard. They really did have a chance to close that round out, but again, that flank from Hayward, it was devastating. He ended up getting 2, maybe 3 from it, kind of missed it towards the end, but it certainly had that impact, and it really split the way that Wildcard were trying to structure that execute. So it was a really great job, and also a great job from the Knights players on site. They kind of really withstood a bit of an onslaught there in that last 10 seconds, and it really enabled Hayward to still hard play that red stairs position, because if those on-site players collapsed, obviously Wildcard would have had more man advantage, they would have had the bodies on site, and then Hayward would have been in a retake situation. So yeah, overall, really good end to that round for the Knights.
Attackers need to locate and defuse.
Bit of optimism here for the Knights boys. Already mentioned that in stage 1, despite having Silex on the roster, the coach subbing in, or the manager subbing in even, Wildcard did manage to take down Knights on this very map. We've seen some pretty shaky results, in fact, from Knights on this map. I don't even want to talk about that atrocity 7-1 that these guys were spanked by order in OCN. But even if you look further back, in APAC South Stage 2, Chiefs took down Knights 7-5. And while Knights had a decisive win over Fnatic in the APAC playoffs after Stage 1, we haven't really seen a decisive win for them ever since.
That's true, and something that can be a little bit always tricky to gauge with Knights is sometimes it feels like they go through these peaks and troughs of form, and you never really feel like maybe they're on the edge of slipping, but then they'll just bring it back. Just somewhere they will tighten up and they'll start to have some really strong performances. So I think that's another opportunity here again for Wildcard, where if they can really rein it in, they could maybe catch the Knights here with their little classic shaky starts to a stage.
Oh, hello. Hayward not droned out, perhaps. Does catch off Emo. I wonder what was happening there in the comms for Wildcard. An aggressive play for Emo doesn't work. Gio's looking for a refrag. Where has Hayward managed to get himself? He's managed to get himself a refrag back. Gio shuts him down, and Wildcard do equalize.
Yeah, good to get that refrag. Wasn't too sure on that entry. I actually think Emo did get droned in, just don't think he really entered the way that he would have liked to. But either way, yes, good refrag. First minute down. And, oh, Dino so close to seeing the feet of Vinny, and oh, he's actually captured by Vinny. That's a great shot to take him out, and that's going to give Wildcard a nice little advantage in half of the round.
4v3 now as they start to approach the master bedroom balcony. Should be fairly cut and dried for Wildcard, except for the fact that there's a lot of utility to still deal with. They would love to get a breach on this main triple wall, but you've got two electric claws defending it. A lot of mute jammers around. Oh, great eye there from Milo down in kitchen, dining from below, shoots that claw through the floor. Now Pat can get to work.
Yeah, again, this attack's actually looking fairly good here from Wildcard. Some really good positive signs. If you are a Wildcard fan, it feels like they have really brought things together a little bit since stage 2. Of course, still a lot to play here, but they are set up in a really great position. Now, Sage is trying to hold Astro by himself here. He's fairly pinched. Gio is on the window. Milo looks like he's keen to kind of push up these stairs, and Vinny pushing through bathroom. So there's a very, very solid pinch onto this position.
Oh, that nade caught out. Second nade to go through. Unsure if the player is still behind that shield. Does dismantle it through the smoke. Sage says goodnight. Milo looking for that refrag, and he gets it somehow. Barely, but traded directly on back, at least for now. The gas does finish him off. 20 seconds remain, and Pat goes in. It's him and Gio versus Juicy, and Juicy's got the perfect positioning. Double on for the round. Gio to clutch. Low HP. Juicy to find. He has the diffuser, planting it now. And Juicy's got to make this work. He has time on his side. The pre-fire is just enough, just what he needs for the captain of Knights to clean up.
Big from the Don, Juicy. He's got 2 3Ks in a row here for the Knights. He's having a great start to this game. But again, Wildcard very close. That attack really could have gone in their favor. Just a couple of gunfights really not going their way, and that's just how it be sometimes. But this is feeling like a really good contest here, Dev. You know, just at any point, again, Wildcard feel like they can just lock in a couple of these rounds and we'll be tight.
Very much so. It's 2 1v1s in a row. As you said, 2 huge 3Ks from Juicy, the Don himself. Off the staple smoke now and onto the Valkyrie. I wonder whether he's to stick that, perhaps expecting that Dining is going to be a little bit more of a flexible defense, a little bit more mobile, and shuffling of the operators around for them. I like the Legion pick here as well. Trying to hold as much map control as possible on this Dining bomb site, and as Gumines can assist.
Definitely can, but look, I like this from Knights too. You know, they've been able to get these 2 rounds in a row and continue to move through all 3 of these viable bomb sites. I wonder if we'll start to see some more living room played. I mean, nothing has really changed on Villa, and sometimes, you know, new season, certain meta changes maybe makes it a touch more viable. I don't know, but we've definitely seen some really cool holds in that site. Would be keen to see it, but anyway, it is kitchen dining, and it looks like it's going to be a fairly decent vertical hold here from the Knights. They have continued to hard stick this Valkyrie as well, Dev, so something that we talked about in that op-ban phase that is really coming to fruition.
And still stubbornly no IQ from the Wildcard guys. Gonna have to rely a lot on their drones to find these cats. Pardon me. That one outside could deal some damage as well. Potential runouts, potentially just preparing, getting information on the rotations from WC. And the Wildcard boys looking to take from study across. Quite an ambitious map control take here. Let's see if Emo doesn't fumble on the entry.
Yeah, probably wanting to back it up a bit better than last time. This is a great little cam here from Dino. It's just not going to catch any wildcard players at this point because there's just no one there. But Juicy looking to, not from Dino, I can't believe I just said that. It was from Juicy, Dino viewing it. But no, look, they haven't really caught where the wildcard players are entering from, and it has going to be from this south side across. Doesn't quite look like they are going hard for that master clear right now, so they're not really looking to get that vertical control that you would potentially expect early. And once again, Hayward has found a big entry pick for his team.
3 in a row. And Geo goes down, no impact on the round. He'll have to sit cams. Still this roam uncontested here. Wildcard are trying their best, but Knights retaining so much control. Wildcard looking a little bit lost on how to deal. As Milo starts to waltz up classical, he's going to have a big entry here. And he hears that Roni, sprays on through. But that's the call, the tagline for Knights to vacate and fall back. They're still roaming, mind you. It's a dining bomb site. Wildcard are so delayed with their sledge gone as well. It's going to be impossible to get Vert. This is not a good look for WC.
Yeah, this is definitely the least convincing round so far from Wildcard. Even pushing out that roam on the office side still means that the actual vertical control they want and need on the Master is still needing to be contested. So as you said, they really aren't going to be able to clear that out now, and with no sledge, probably much less point to do so, but it doesn't leave them with a whole lot of teeth left in this push. It's really going to be tough for them from this point on.
Should be an easy hold now for Knights, but if Wildcard have anything, it's a last-ditch effort. A desperate attempt to try and make something work. Oh, what an angle for Dino. Can't land anything though. He'll go prone, try and wait, bide his time. He finds the first. Hayward on for the cross. 30 seconds, and there's just no hope here for Wildcard. Knights have it in the bag. Milo finds the first, but he'll have to find the other 4. 20 seconds left as the adrenal surge subsides. There's no hope here for the newest member of Wildcard. It'd have to be a massive clutch, and Josh ain't gonna let it happen. The most decisive round so far falls in Knights' corner.
Definitely decisive. Wildcard just didn't seem to in it from the get-go, and that's just a bit of a shame because it really felt like that they could bring this half back and we would really have a good contest, but now it's starting to get a bit worrisome, right? Like if the Knights manage to win this next round, going back to AVG, all of a sudden they're up 4-0, they're going to have significant advantage going into the second half, and just, I don't know, I don't think that bodes very well for Wildcard. Of course, don't want to write them off at this point. The preceding 2 rounds were fairly decent, so maybe this is their chance. They can win AVG.
Yeah, well, this is an excellent start for Knights, I will say, and they're backing up their Stage 2 performance. The Stage 2 Knights only dropped 2 games during the regular season. In fact, the only team in the league to drop no less, or rather no more than 2 games. And backing that up here with another strong start. Those 2 games they did lose were to Q-Confirm and the Chiefs. So if they can lock this one out, I know that Knights mostly concern themselves with Elevate, Invictus, Q-Confirm. I believe they're the 3 teams that Knights tend to be most afraid of. But that just leaves Wildcard in the column of, well, you got to beat them, and you can't let any points fall to the wayside in doing so. It's got to be regulation. Knights have put themselves in for a strong start.
Yeah, definitely. That's such a great point too. It's something we always talk about more towards the end of the stage, and that is these strong teams like Knights, they need to lock in these points in regulation when they're expected to win. We've seen it a few times where teams failing to do so, they start to struggle even with playoff contention come end of stage. And that is so critical in APAC South because I need to remind you the way that last stage ended. Invictus Gaming, for example, they were the last team to qualify for playoffs, and in their final game, they were fighting for either playoffs or last place. Like, the fact that that is the gap that we are coming to expect is pretty crazy.
Oh, for the first time, Wildcard finds the opening. Emo gets onto the scoreboard. A good rotation cut by him. Josh, though, waiting with the DMR on the other side. Emo's surely favored in this engagement. Oh, round in the corner. Emo can't land those shots. Josh can get back. This is an Aviator Games bomb site defense for Knights.
It's definitely good to get the opening pick this time around for Wildcard. Hopefully it does help their attack progress a bit quicker, but Hayward, the cheeky fella he is, sitting in that window waiting for Emo Rin. It's a really unfortunate loss there, because that Lion certainly is going to help the progress of Wildcard, and now pretty obviously not going to have any impact at all from the sidelines. So Hayward, once again, just proving to be quite the pain for Wildcard to deal with. But Pat's managed to find another one, and that's going to give Wildcard that advantage back.
Hayward is the devil for Wildcard this game, but finally Milo can punish. Excellent work. Hayward has been constantly knocking at the door for Wildcard. Vinny's making a play. He can make it work as well here on the floor as AR-33 in hand. Sage left 1 versus 4. He can get a bit of an opening, but just completely collapsed upon from all sides. Geo to polish it off. Wildcard, their first round on the board.
Really good round too. I mean, they steamrolled that. Once they got that 4v3 kind of man advantage situation, they just saw their opportunity and they pounced on it. And that is what you want to see. You want to see a team identifying when they do have that advantage and they're in the position where they can just strike. You know, they're not going to stall out for another minute just procedurally clearing things. Certainly a pattern that we have seen from Wildcard for a long time in the past was that they were just all about the procedure, and then they were never left with much time at the end. I really love that that was how that round ended. It's a good sign for their progression, and finally they got a round on the board.
Yeah, it's a good start. And hey, look, I wouldn't call 3 rounds loss on your attacking side on Villa a lost cause by any stretch of the imagination. Villa was played quite a few times in Stage 2 of APAC South Division, 3 times, and it was a pretty even Steven 52% defensive win rate, so just slightly more defender-sided than attacker-sided. If Wildcard want their best chance here, obviously they're going to be going for the full 3 rounds of attack in the half, winning these 2, and I wouldn't put it past them, Raven. Like, we've just had a dominant round for Wildcard. Prior to that, a dominant round for Knights. Prior to that, 2 very, very close rounds that ended in 1v1s. Definitely, it's on the cards here, no pun intended, for Wildcard.
Yeah, look, I think it is too. And the other thing I'm starting to see here with the scoreboard, at least, and I mean, I never like deep diving too hard into the scoreboard, but, you know, so I think Juicy and Hayward that have really netted a lot of kills for the Knights. Outside of that, it's not like the others aren't doing their job, but, you know, like, they're the only 2 players really having that scoreboard impact, at least. Whereas if you look on the side of Wildcard, it's been a very even affair. Sometimes that can really dictate the way a game plays out. Certainly not saying that's going to be the case here, but it's a good sign for Wildcard in this instance that everyone seems to be having a fairly even showing up right now.
Here's the Flores coming in for Vincere. A lot of good information he's gathering, and on top of that, he can clear some util. My God, he just saw that the entire of Aviator was clear. No util to clear either, so that's just some free info for him. As Knights primarily focus their contest on this stat and master site.
Yeah, really wanting to stick this roam. And look, I think it's great. Like, it's really important on a defensive AVG that you are stalling at your opponents. If they're doing this clear across from the north side from Master, you want them to not have much time to really then start to poke at site. You really want to delay on that roam clear. I think it's really good from the Knights that they've continued to stick this. And look at that. Almost half the round has evaporated, and the Knights managed to all stay alive. No damage dealt here. It's, I would say, a bit of a win for the defense in this situation.
I think both teams are probably seeing this as a win right now. Knights happy that they got back scratch-free, but Wildcard sitting there thinking, okay, we've got a lot of map control. We can set up for this execute now. Drones below as well. Thing is, Wildcard playing very, very slow, very, very thorough. And that means if Knights can play patiently, Hayward has no patience in his veins whatsoever. He'll shut down Vinny. And that is the 4th round in a row, the 5th round in a row. Hayward has been the first blood for Knights.
Hayward being a bit of a machine here on Playday 1 of Stage 3. He is really showing up for the Knights. It's put them in a great position coming into this last minute. Geo on the hunt, but Hayward has rotated all the way back to the middle of the main stairs there. You can kind of see his outline. He's got support at the top of main stairs as well from Sage. So this is where it gets tough for Wildcard. They sure do have that master bedroom control, but with the way this side is set up, there is a lot of angles in through office without really solid distractions from elsewhere. It's going to be tough for Wildcard to close out this execute.
30 seconds, 4v5. Still hard for Pat to get a breach here on the 90 wall. Milo rings true with that LMG. Does his best. Geo pushing from below the E1D. Calls through. And Emo has to have an impact. There's so many engagements all over the place on this map. And Hayward holds fast with the Deagle. Shut down. And Josh as well in 90 doing some damage. At the end of it, it seems like Knights are on top. And Wildcard have nothing but Pat left remaining. Knights can secure their 4th round of the map.
That was a much better defense than them as well, just in general. You know, they didn't lose that early pick, which they did in round 4. That was a big thing for Wildcard. It's the only round, in fact, that Wildcard have had that opening kill. And that was just, obviously, the forward step that they needed to be able to close out a round. So the Knights denying that from the get-go, again, I think that was really big. As I was saying, with that roam clear kind of not really working out at all in the first 90 seconds. Sure, Wildcard got that map control, but really without the pick and even the solid info, you saw that they had to kind of re-drone for Hayward, even still below. It was just a significant time delay, and then the Knights just managed to pick them off and ride out that clock. So love that from the Knights. I think that was really well played.
And that does make it 100% conversion as well. The team to find the opening pick has won the round every single round. And as we move back to dining and kitchen defense for Knights, you've got to be optimistic that this could well be a 5-1 half in their favor. This was the most dominant round won by Knights. Wildcard looked completely lost on that roam clear of the top floor. That's why I wonder, are they going to do it again? Are they going to try and push all the way top floor across from study, or eventually to try and clear master, eventually to try and get some vertical pressure onto the side? It just seems like there are far too many steps and links in that chain, and as soon as one link breaks, Wildcard suffer.
Yeah, I don't mind it if they were maybe more confidently nailing these roam clears, but because they've just genuinely struggled. I mean, I'm looking at these opening kill stats here. 4 of 5 opening kills have gone in favor of Hayward on the entries. I think without
look at this,
comfortably winning that. Oh, they're going to go for a little bit of a rush here, pantry steps.
Sorry to interrupt your beautiful point, but yeah, it looks like Wildcard making a very sneaky play here. Up the pantry stairs,
no.
My God, Dino! You're a monster! The double spray down, he reads it perfectly, watches down through the hatch. Now Milo no longer has the confidence to commit up pantry. Fortunately, there is a frag back. And Emo's going in, traded once again. And it looks like this may be the end of the road for Wildcard. Pat, once again, the last man standing. Sage makes short work of him. Knights, 5-1.
Yeah, that was a bit of a fail. That's really unfortunate. I mean, I don't mind the call from Wildcard here. As we said, you know, Kitchen Dining was the defense round that the Knights managed to win with the most strength. They just looked so good on that defense, and Wildcard, conversely, just didn't look that great at all. They looked lost. So this time around, they just thought, you know what, guys, let's just try be a little bit cheeky. Unfortunate for them, Dino was looking right through the hatch to the stairwell. He got a beautiful little double lineup, and it was just kind of over at that point.
Kind of beautiful, if I'm not lying. I really enjoyed that double spray down from Dino. Great read. Does position Knights so close. One more round, they guarantee at least 1 point through an overtime. And if they can get 2 rounds on their attacking side, then, I mean, that's all she wrote. They will take the full 3-point regulation win. Wildcard are the one taking a tactical pause now, as we see a bit of a curious operator lineup couple we don't see very frequently. The obvious one is the Thunderbird, but even the Tachanka and Echo we don't see all that often. I wonder what they're chatting about right now and what they need to do to lock up some defenses.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things here. One is, you know, Villa 5-1 in the favor of the defense isn't all that uncommon. I mean, we did see Villa balance out a lot more in recent history, but certainly when Villa was first implemented into the map pool, it was so common to see this kind of scoreline coming out of a defense half. So I feel like that's not really a strange position to be in if you're somebody like Wildcard. And to your point, this defense lineup is very interesting because, yeah, there are at least 3 operators here that aren't super common, and in particular Thunderbird. This is the first time we're going to see her played in APAC South.
Pretty exciting. I really wonder how she's going to be used in general and whether she's going to be effective. We're seeing quite a bit of spice here from Wildcard. A lot of shields brought to the table. Perhaps trying to fortify those positions with some Kona stations. Those are 3 ADSs placed at top of main stairs. Likely we'll see Pat's shield make its way there as well. Where are the Kona stations going to reside for Vinny?
Yeah, well, I guess there's a few decisions to make there, right? You could put them out on the roam to try and help your roamers, but you have to be careful because if you get cleared out and they're still up, those attackers can go back and use them to their own advantage. So that's always a consideration. There's one on the fallback position of top of main stairs. Don't mind that because you do often lose a bit of HP if you're trying to hard hold that top of main stairs. He's got one down in the vault, and that's one in the games room. So, or aviator, I should say. Yeah, look, they're pretty fairly spread out, but all close to site. I think it's a big thing to factor in with Thunderbird. You really do have to be careful. You don't want to give them in a position that the attackers could utilize.
Knights set up very well, looking at that confidence, taking a 5-1 half. When they played against Wildcard in stage 1 on Villa, they only managed to get 2 defense wins out of 5 attempts. And now they've gone 5-1. It's a hell of a statement to make. Very separated now, but still unwavering. Josh to push up from the pantry stairs with the Jackal. Vinny, a little bit of a roam off on the master stats side, but he retreats back, gifting this map control to Knights.
Yeah, and this is something that we talked about with the Knights defense, and that is the solid roam that they were holding and just burning a lot of time. So forfeiting that from Wildcard early, I don't know, this could come back to bite them. The Knights are a fairly explosive, efficient attacking team. So to give them all this map control pretty early, this could be deadly, but hey, this Wildcard strat does look fairly interesting with the lineup, so I'm just keen to see it play out.
Just realized my spreadsheet doesn't have Thunderbird in it. Gotta add that later, but for now, we will keenly watch the Thunderbird player of Vinny. Takes a bit of damage. If he can get to a Kona station, he'll heal himself up. What am I hearing right now? What is that sound? It sounds like a florist drone? Is it a magnet?
I think it's the Kona station, actually.
Oh, of course it is. Well, there you go. Just ticking along. Yeah, there you go.
It sounded like that, you do.
Very, very loud, but what's ringing in my ears at the moment is Knights' resounding progress that they have managed to establish. Though I do love the Tachanka usage from Wildcard. As the pre-execute hits, not a lot of time left.
Oh, very tight, but it's definitely going to be favoring Wildcard. They've got some really great positions, the shield in particular, really enabling Geo to hold this aggressively and deep at that. 25 seconds, Dev. Knights are going to have to really get their skates on and get some kills.
Oh, and that's a big double for Geo. Holding the line is exactly what Wildcard needed, but an excellent entry is met with an excellent response. Geo is going nuts. A 1v1. Sage versus Vinny. He's absolutely nasty. Sage takes Knights to match points.
Oh, that was a bit grim. I really thought Wildcard had that in the bag. Geo went huge with the 3K, and it just felt like Vinny with the spear, you know, really backed him in to win that gunfight, but Sage just too sharp. A beautiful swing, and that is, as you said, Knights moving to match point. 6-1. A 5-1 comeback is always doable. I mean, 6-1 is still doable, but this has to be 5 perfect rounds from Wildcard. Like, there's no negotiation on the table for that anymore. They have to get 5 flawless defense rounds right here.
Yeah, and it's looking pretty grim for them. Very, very scary. A serious performance brought on by the Stage 2 champions
Attackers need to
of
locate and defuse
Knights.
bombs.
They missed out on going to the Mexico Major through no fault of their own, but only simply the travel restrictions currently in place. And they are certainly making up for that missed event right now, putting Wildcard back in their place. Knights just looking unstoppable.
Yeah, they're looking really good, and it's a bit sad because like it did feel like Wildcard really started this game off well, and even though they weren't getting rounds on the board, it just felt like that maybe this is starting to be
10 seconds left
you know, a
before
winnable
insertion.
match for them, and that's significant because we're talking about their opponents being the Knights here.
5 seconds to go.
But no, the Knights have just really ran away with it, and they are looking strong as they do.
Locate a bomb and defuse
I think that's going to be scary for the rest of the teams in APAC South, probably watching this, anticipating what kind of Knights they're going to see in Stage 3.
One that is ready to rumble would be my guess, because they are absolutely here to play. Good info here for Vinny. Maybe they'll try and make a play, perhaps a C4. Worry about getting droned. Emo is potentially in a position to look for a peek from Master, but very risky business it would be.
Knights still really picking out how exactly they're going to structure this push. It looks like a majority of their team is kind of entering from this south side. Josh by himself down below. That is a fantastic frag grenade from Hayward. He has just been so good in this match and continuing to be just that strong player for Knights.
Yep. And that is his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th opening kill. Milo can find a double. That certainly helps the affair, doesn't it? Suddenly,
does.
Wildcard have the numbers. As I say that, Dino grabs it back and look at the Knights ready to pounce.
Yeah, really good stuff from them, and that has given them now that south side control in through office. Rest of Wildcard players all on site.
bomb located
So
by
he's going to start
attackers.
to set up and get ready to deal with this onslaught. I really like this from Knights. Hayward's going to rotate around to the master side, so it means they're not all just going to be funneling in from the south, which is really tough. There's only a single door into stat and a single door into
bomb has
trophy.
been located.
That's really all you've got. So to split it up means that there's going to be less guns aimed at those doors, and it gives that the Knights, you know, a bit more freedom on entry, so to speak.
Good usage of the Roteros does really put Emo under the pump. 3 on 3. A round like this can certainly be dictated by a gunfight won or lost here or there. Unlikely Emo will get the double here if they go for a refrag. Look to swing him. Oh no. Emo disconnects from the server, leaving Wildcard with just Geo and Milo. Milo also, okay, there you go.
Oh.
That's, I think it was an issue with the server rather than an issue with some players. The game is not over, guys. We will get confirmation on what happens there through the admins. While it may look like a 7-1, and it may well be a 7-1 eventually, don't get your horses held up too excited just yet. That's a strange turn of events there, Raven.
It was, yes. Not quite what I was expecting, but hey, we'll just wait and see what happens. It was looking okay for Wildcard. You know, Milo getting that 2K in particular really brought them back into that round. It felt like after that opening from Hayward, once again, that maybe the Knights were just going to be able to close it out there. But no, Milo did give them that chance. But to speak more broadly, I just don't know whether I would give Wildcard much of a chance to really complete this comeback, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are kind of at the point where it's like, well, if we get the server back up and running, Wildcard, and how more likely is it for them to actually do anything with the extra time that would be allotted to them in that? Knights are just on fire, man. Like, this is not so much the dominance that we saw from Knights in Stage 2, because despite them being in #1 spot, a very tight league all round, 5 points separating Knights on top and the very bottom 8th place team in the league. Only 5 points. APAC South was the tightest league in Stage 2, tightest regional league worldwide. And Knights are showing that during the break, they have been busy at work.
Yeah, and look, this is something that our friends in the desk really talked about a little bit, is how does the mental aspects of Knights not being able to actually make it to Mexico for the major, how does that factor into them on this stage? And quite personally, like knowing the Knights players and their support staff the way they are, I think if anything, it's just motivated them to be
100%.
even stronger this stage. I feel like they're just going to be wanting to lock in A, another major appearance, or B, I should say, the SI position that they are very close to securing. I really think that's what their mindset is. I don't think not making Mexico is really going to be weighing on them a whole lot.
I know that they definitely were feeling it during the event itself. All these players tweeting about their amazing experiences. That would have cut deep. But if there's anything we know about Knights, is that they are resilient, they are determined, and missing out on the major through no fault of their own only would fire them up even more. And they've done just about as good as they possibly could in the 2 stages that we've had in the 2021 season so far. Stage 1, they just barely missed out on first place in APAC South. As a result, the best they could get was overall 3rd place in APAC through the playoffs. And they made that look easy, taking down every other team, north or south, in that bracket. And then stage 2, they didn't even need to go to playoffs. They surpassed it by getting first place direct from APAC South. So there's absolutely no doubt about it that Knights is looking like one of, if not the strongest team in APAC South right now.
Yeah, they are. And look, it's very scary, but I'm really keen to see how the rest of this Playday goes, just so we can kind of identify whether there's other teams that are retaining strength or have gained strength. And then, of course, I hate to say this, but history would say Wildcard maybe isn't the toughest opponent for Knights anyway. So, like, is there really a whole lot of this result that is feeling that unexpected right now? It's always hard to read into, is this the Knights feeling like they're just as strong as they were last stage, if not stronger, or is this more so Wildcard potentially just not having the form that we were hoping they would have for stage 3?
Yep. You're not wrong. And what can we say as a consolation for Wildcard, a result of that? They haven't had the best year as a whole, and while they technically did end stage 2 above stage 1, it was still not a great result regardless. I believe we're actually going to get some friends on the desk with us, Raven. I believe we've got the other boys in here as well. Boys, are you there?
That's special.
Yeah, what a crazy turn of events that was. But I think that, you know, we're coming in to kind of give you guys somewhat of a breather. I know Xenox and Guz have been watching quite intently on that matchup, and Guz, we might go to you so these boys underneath us can have a bit of a breather and a bit of a break from using the old mental capacity. This is just clinical, absolutely clinical from Knights.
What is Dev doing, dude?
Don't know.
Yeah, obviously a bit of a strange conclusion to that match. So we're just waiting again for confirmation as to what the outcome will be for that. In terms of what we saw in the server, though, we saw Thunderbird for the first time actually, which is a pretty cool talking point. Didn't have the biggest impact, unfortunately, in the end. That round, Vinny actually got decimated in that 1v1 for the Knights to be able to win that round out. Outside of that, we've seen a couple of curveballs in terms of defensive setup that we probably haven't previously seen. And when those were sprung upon Wildcard, just my overall observation was that they were kind of struggling to get over those hurdles, which isn't a positive sign for them, but a good sign for the Knights that they're experimenting a little bit. For the most part, it's working out really well for them, and regardless of what the result will be for that final round, I mean, they're going to close it out. There's no real doubt for me at this point, and unfortunately, it's just a tale of same old for Wildcard.
Xenox, you know what? We're gonna yeet Dev and Raven away now, boys. Thank you very much for taking over from that game, and I'm sure we'll see you in just a hot second. But Xenox, we've given Guz the floor. I'll give you the floor now. By the way, for those of you at home, kind of waiting to see what the end result is, it is going to be rewarded to the Knights that round, which means it is the end of the game. It's done and dusted. Xenox, you're saying thank God, please. Why? Thank God.
Look, let's just put Wildcard out of their misery, okay? 7-1, that was an absolute stomping. It was not the ideal start for Wildcard. It was all Knights, as we kind of preluded to in the pre-match discussion. And yeah, I don't think we needed to extend this out for too much longer. Knights, though, that was as flawless as you could just about get 7-1. Anything better would have been a 7-0, but a perfect way to start their campaign for Stage 3. We spoke about what they sort of needed to do to get their stage on track, and this is exactly what they needed, even probably more expected than anything. I thought this would be more like a 7-3, 7-4 kind of thing, but 7-1 really just puts Wildcard on the back foot to start this stage.
Guz, I'll give you the overarching opinion here. Do you want to go for the Wildcard conversation or the Knights conversation? Because they are two very different approaches.
Ooh, we'll go to the Knights. Let's go to the Knights, I reckon. We got to pump them up. They are the best chance outside of Elevate, of course, actually to go to the next 6 Invitational. So that's the storyline we're trying to ride with, trying to hype them up. They just need to put in a solid performance here in the regular season to essentially lock that position in, and I don't think they really could have gotten off to a much better start. We were seeing players step up. Juicy was one that I noticed in particular, actually. Didn't post great stats last stage. Of course, hard support player, you don't expect that, but today he was fragging out. We saw the rest of the team stepping up as well. Hayward as well, popping off in the server. And like I said, the curveballs that were being thrown at Wildcard were experimental, some of them, some of their setup. One that comes to mind was probably Goyo and Trophy, for example. And we just saw Wildcard completely capitulate, which, again, Wildcard having their own issues, but the Knights focusing in on them. They're doing a really good job at bringing something fresh into the server. It paid off for them, and if they can continue this form, I think things are looking bright.
Talking about bringing things freshly into the server, let's bring in a fresh new face on the desk. It's the Don himself. What a performance from you, Juicy. A bit of a weird end to the match. There's no way that we can kind of skim over that like it's nothing. But look, at the end of the day, you guys have put on an absolute clinic. Are we just expecting stage 2 performances from you?
I think so. I think we're fairly confident going on the stage. I think it, showed in the first few rounds that we want, we're here to play this stage. We want to take every game as, as serious as possible and get all the points we can achieve. But yeah, that ending was a bit strange. I was one of the ones that lagged out. I didn't even know what happened. Like, I just crashed and that was it. But yeah, shitty way to win the game, but it's whatever.
Yeah, of course, a bit of an unusual end to the map. But in terms of, I guess, Villa as a whole, heading into this stage, recent update, a few meta changes. We saw a bit of a change up there in some of the operator picks from yourself and Wildcard as well. Did the map play out as you expected, or was it a little bit differently maybe to the rest of the year?
I think the map played pretty similar, honestly. Villa's, you can fall back, you can play your Nile, or you can, fight them on their first step. So I think that plays pretty similar, but it'll be interesting to see how a couple of the other maps play out. It'll be bit of fun this stage. Bit of a fresh thing with a new map as well, so it'll be good.
Juicy, I just wanted to ask you, what did you do and what did your team do, I guess, during the major? Did you guys watch it, or did you just try and tune out and just keep practicing for stage 3?
We definitely watched it. We had a little bit of a break as well, to refresh after, not being able to go. It was pretty disappointing, but watched it all, looked at what people were doing, and then just focused on the new patch that was coming out and how we could improve for the future. I think that's the best thing we could do in that situation is just focus on what we can do. So that's what we did.
Well, I guess, look, we will keep it short and sweet for you, but before we let you go, we obviously give you the floor to speak to the fans. I'll let you do that, but I also want to know, what's the goal for stage 3? Are we looking at the stage champions again?
To win. That's all it is. Just a win.
Yep.
No other goal.
Simple.
That's it.
No, yeah. That's fair enough. Anything you want to say finally?
Just thanks to the fans, thanks to you boys, thanks to the casters as well. Without it, every week it doesn't happen. So thank you to everyone.
Much love, Juicy. Thanks for playing, mate. It's always a pearler to have you on, and I'm sure we'll see more of your face as the year progresses.
It's on.
Lovely. Thanks, boys. See you later.
But Don has given them an offer they can't refuse, and Wildcard have been left sleeping with the fishes. Xenox, what a performance. What a statement from stage 2 champions.
Yeah, I think it's very critical that we focus on the rounds prior to that very last one, right? Because it was, what, 6-1. It was demolition. It was as one-sided as it could be. Not the best way to end the round. I'm sure there'll be some discussions around it today, maybe tomorrow, whatever. But at the end of the day, Knights won that one comfortably. And it really just sets the tone for stage 3 moving forward as the best team in APAC South, maybe the best team in the entire APAC region.
Jeez, that is a huge statement. I guess we may well see that come to fruition. We'll wait and see, Guz. But as we are going to go to a break, there's 2 teams waiting on the other side. That's Order and the newly formed Direwolves. We'll be back in a second.